It started as just another late afternoon drive. I was out filming content, the kind that breathes life into quiet places, that finds beauty in the overlooked. But I didn't expect to find a soul. We were passing through a part of Dallas that time had mostly abandoned, an industrial zone just clinging to relevance. Rusted signage, boarded windows, rows of buildings that once buzzed with movement now sitting in silence. Then, out of the corner of my eye, a flash. Something moved across a cracked parking lot. Not a dog, not a coyote, a bobcat. At first, I thought I must be mistaken. A bobcat? Here? Alone? She darted across the open lot, weaving past the skeletons of dumpsters and shopping carts, her body low and frantic. Something about her movement wasn't right. Not graceful like a wildcat should be. There was a heaviness to it, a hesitation. I pulled over. My heart started racing. I jumped the rusted fence, landing in weeds and dust, the chain link rattling behind me. The moment my feet hit the ground, she froze. Ears flat, chest heaving. Her golden eyes locked on mine. Fear. Not the wild kind, the broken kind. "Come on, honey," I murmured, slowly stepping forward, hands low. She didn't run, but not because she trusted me. She didn't have the strength. Her ribs pushed against thin fur. Her paws were caked in grime. Her whole body sagged like it had been holding out too long. And yet, there she was. Alive. Barely. She backed into a corner between a collapsed shed and a loading dock, trembling. She looked like she was waiting for something. To be hurt, maybe. To disappear. I stopped a few feet away and knelt. I didn't want to scare her further. I didn't want to break what little spirit she had left. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just thin. She was defeated. I'd seen feral cats before, wild ones too. They always had that edge to them, that fire, that defiance. But she didn't. Her body was there, but her will wasn't. Her eyes, they were tired. Not just from pain, from giving up. My chest tightened. I've filmed abandoned animals before. I know when one's close to the end. And this was one of those moments. "What happened to you?" I whispered. She blinked slowly, not even flinching. I couldn't walk away. I knew I couldn't leave her there. She didn't resist when I moved closer. No hiss, no growl. Not even a twitch of warning. Just a slow blink, like she was asking if I was real. I wrapped my hoodie gently around her frail body, half expecting her to panic. But instead she let herself collapse into it, as if surrendering, finally, to someone, back over the fence, into the car. My heart was pounding. I kept glancing at her in the passenger seat the way she didn't move. Not like a wild animal. Not like any animal, really. Just stillness. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes half closed. I'd never seen a creature look so tired of life. I think that's what hit me the hardest. She looked like she had stopped expecting kindness a long time ago. I drove straight to a local animal hospital on the edge of town. Not a fancy place, but one that had helped me before. The nurse took one look and raised her brows. "She's calm," she said. "Too calm," I replied. They ran a basic checkup. No major visible wounds, a few fleas, dehydration, malnourishment, but nothing they could treat without further tests. "She just needs food, water, rest," the vet shrugged. "She should be fine." I nodded, but something in me didn't sit right. I didn't know what yet. Just that fine didn't match what I saw in that parking lot. I brought her home. I set up a quiet corner for her in the spare room. Blankets, soft light, a shallow bowl of water. She didn't eat much. Didn't drink. Just lay there, curled tight, flinching at every door creak or footstep. I named her Stella. I don't know why. Maybe because I wanted her to feel like she mattered. Like she belonged. That night, I sat outside with her for a while. The stars were out, Texas quiet humming around us. She looked up at the sky like she was remembering something. Then she tried to stand and immediately winced. I noticed something then. The way she walked, or rather, didn't. It was more than exhaustion. She shifted, unbalanced, like her legs weren't cooperating. I waited, watched, and then she tried to go to the bathroom but couldn't. Not wouldn't. Couldn't. That's when panic set in. I scooped her up, whispered soothing nonsense the whole way back into the car, and headed to the emergency animal hospital across town. The one that stayed open late, where they didn't mind if you showed up breathless with an injured animal cradled like a child. They took her back immediately. X-rays, fluids, blood work, hours passed in a blur. Finally, a vet came in, holding a tablet with images I couldn't make sense of. His face was serious, measured. "She's got a broken pelvis," he said gently. "Multiple breaks. Looks like she was either hit by something heavy or fell from a very high place. And there's more." He tapped the screen, pointing at the ghostly outline of her small body. "Her intestines are completely backed up. She's been eating things just to survive. Bone fragments, plastic, styrofoam, even what looks like part of a tampon. All of it stuck. Her digestive tract is barely functioning." I felt my throat tighten. All that garbage jammed inside her, just to stay alive. "She needs surgery," he continued, "soon. We'll need to flush her system, remove the blockages, and if she's going to walk again, she'll need a full pelvic reconstruction. This isn't just rest and water." My hands were cold. I looked down at Stella, lying on the exam table under soft lights, her tail twitching weakly. "How much time do I have to decide?" I asked. "Not long." I don't remember saying yes. I just remember signing forms, handing over a credit card, and asking them to do whatever they could. They wheeled her away, and the room felt so much bigger without her. I didn't go home. I sat in the waiting room watching the digital clock crawl forward, each minute dragging its weight across my chest. There were moments I doubted everything. Was I overstepping? Should I have just called wildlife services? Was I trying to save something that nature had already decided? But every time I closed my eyes, I saw her the way she looked in that parking lot. That silent plea, that surrender. And I knew I couldn't walk away from her story. Not when she hadn't even had a chance to rewrite it. Hours later, the vet returned. Tired eyes, gloved hands. She made it. Relief hit me like a wave. I could barely speak. "She was in worse shape than we thought," he added. "But she's strong and lucky. Very lucky." They let me see her once she woke up. She was groggy, bandaged, her lower body wrapped and elevated. But when I leaned down, she opened her eyes, and for the first time, they didn't look hollow. They looked curious. It would be a long road, painful, slow, full of uncertainty. But in that moment, I saw a spark in her I hadn't seen before. Hope. Over the next few weeks, I became something I didn't expect. Her person. She needed help going to the bathroom, help eating, help simply existing. And somehow, that responsibility didn't feel heavy. It felt necessary, like this was what I was supposed to do. She slept near me, watched me, started following me, wobbling at first, then stronger. Her instincts never turned wild. She didn't lash out or hide. She stayed close. Almost too close. The more time passed, the more it felt like she was becoming part of my life in a way I hadn't planned for. At first, I told myself it was temporary, just until she recovered. But something had changed in both of us. The house felt different with her in it. Quieter, softer. I caught myself tiptoeing past where she slept, whispering without realizing it. She followed me from room to room, her gait uneven at first, but determined. She wasn't just healing, she was trying. You could see it in every shaky step, every time she climbed into my lap and nestled in like she'd always belonged there. I set alarms to give her meds, learned to clean surgical wounds I never thought I'd be able to look at. Her eyes followed me like I was the only thing that made sense, and in a way, she became that for me too. I documented everything, partly for others, but mostly for her. Photos, clips, journal entries. There was something about her journey that felt bigger than both of us. A creature abandoned in the ruins of a city, broken, discarded, but somehow not bitter. Still gentle, still trusting. The vet said we were lucky, that most bobcats in her condition would have been euthanized on the spot, that her injuries were too extensive, too complicated. But she'd survived. Not just because of surgery or meds, but because she wanted to. She chose to. One day, while brushing her coat, I felt a tiny bump near the base of her neck. A microchip. I stared at it for a long time before calling the vet. They traced it back to an out-of-state breeder, someone who had tried, and failed, to domesticate bobcats for profit. They'd been shut down months ago. Most of the animals were seized, rehomed, or put down, but Stella had somehow slipped through the cracks. The vet tried to contact the listed number. No answer, no return call, nothing. That silence said everything. She had been dumped, tossed aside when things got complicated, left to die. I looked at her differently after that. Not because I pitied her, but because I respected her more. She wasn't just a bobcat who got hurt. She was a survivor. A gentle, misunderstood creature who had been failed again and again, and still looked at humans with trust. How could I not feel something deeper? I started telling people I was fostering her, that once she recovered I'd find her a better home, one with land, fences, expertise, somewhere more fitting. But each time I said it, the words felt hollow. She had a way of resting her head on my arm like she'd always known me. A way of blinking slowly, waiting to see if I was leaving the room. And if I did, she'd drag her stiff little body after me, no matter how tired, how sore, how late. At first I told myself I was giving her comfort, stability, healing. But the truth was, she was giving that to me. Recovery wasn't a straight line. There were days Stella didn't want to move. Days when her appetite disappeared, or when she curled into herself like the pain was too much. I'd sit beside her for hours, holding a bowl of warm food, coaxing her gently. And then there were good days. Days she surprised me. Like the morning I walked in and found her perched on the low windowsill, sunlight pouring over her face. She turned and looked at me with the tiniest spark of mischief. I swear she smiled in that subtle feline way, a slow blink, a flick of the tail. "You're not supposed to be up there," I whispered, grinning. She didn't move, she just owned it. With time, her fur started to fill out again, that deep golden brown pattern returning, dapples across her shoulders like embers. Her muscles rebuilt, her gait steadied. She began to run again, not fast, not gracefully, but enough to feel the wind in her face. And I watched her transform. Not just physically, emotionally. The defeat was gone. That hollow gaze she'd had in the parking lot, that hopeless quiet. It had vanished, replaced by something tender, present, alive. We started going outside together, just the backyard. I kept a close eye, of course. She sniffed the air, chased shadows, lounged in the patches of sun like she was learning what it meant to be a cat again. Sometimes neighbors would stop by, curious. "That yours?" they'd ask, half laughing. "She's mine," I'd say. And every time I did, It felt more true. There was one evening, I remember it clearly. I was sitting on the back steps, camera resting beside me, drink in hand. Stella padded up and, without hesitation, climbed into my lap. Not curled, not cautious, just placed herself there, head under my chin, like it was the most natural thing in the world. The sky turned orange and soft. Crickets stirred, and I realized this wasn't a temporary stop in her life, or in mine. She wasn't some wild creature passing through. She was home. I'd spent so long thinking I was rescuing her, but maybe she'd rescued me too, in ways I hadn't even noticed. I'd seen things through her eyes, how fragile trust is, how precious second chances are, how survival isn't just about instinct, it's about love, about choosing to live even when the world has broken you. People always ask me now, aren't bobcats supposed to be dangerous? I just shake my head. She's not dangerous. She's just misunderstood. And maybe, so am I. She still sleeps beside me most nights, still waits at the door when I leave, still climbs awkwardly into my lap like she's claiming it. Her name is Stella. She was abandoned, broken. But now, she's everything. Some stories don't start with fairy tales. They begin in the ruins, in abandoned parking lots, behind chain-link fences under skies that don't promise anything. They begin with silence, with pain, with the kind of loneliness you can't see until you've felt it. That's where Stella came from. But that's not where she stayed. When I look at her now, curled in the same patch of sunlight she once could barely stand to reach, I think about everything she carried inside her, all that brokenness, all that trust that somehow remained. I think about how she let herself be held, how she chose to keep going, how she chose me. And I think about how we're all a little bit like that. We walk through life trying to hide our damage, trying to look whole when we're anything but. We cover our pain with silence, with distraction, with excuses. But sometimes, healing doesn't start until someone sees us, really sees us, and decides we're worth saving anyway. That's what Stella taught me, that love doesn't always roar. Sometimes it limps into your life, eyes tired, ribs showing, and asks for help without a sound. And if you're lucky, you recognize it. You listen, you stop, and you don't walk away. Not everyone would have seen her. Some might have looked and turned their heads, written her off as just another stray, another problem. But I saw her, and in saving her life, she gave mine a kind of purpose I didn't even know was missing. Stella isn't just a bobcat. She's my reminder that second chances are real, that hope is quiet but fierce, and that sometimes when you least expect it, the wild finds you, and it stays.